Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're actually going to talk about something maybe a little less five-star review. More unexpected unease.
Right. We're talking about those unsettling experiences people sometimes have staying in Airbnbs.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a reminder that, while the sharing economy gives us these unique travel options, which is great, it can also put you in situations that are, outside that typical hotel setup. And sometimes that comes with unforeseen challenges.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've actually pulled some stories from a YouTube channel. They collect true submitted accounts from real people about strange, unsettling things that happened during their stays.
And our mission today is really just to unpack 3 of these stories. We want to look at, the details, what exactly made these stays go sideways, and maybe what can they tell us about the kinds of challenges that pop up when you rent a private home.
Yeah, these aren't just ghost stories or anything. They really highlight some real vulnerabilities that can catch travelers completely off guard.
Okay, so let's get into this first story then. This one comes from someone traveling solo. A long cross-country road trip, actually.
Oh, wow. Where were they headed?
Moving from Chicago out to Nevada. So, a big drive. They hired movers for their stuff, but they were planning to drive themselves.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and it was like a 30-hour drive, so they decided to split it into 3 days.
Smart. So that first overnight stop, they needed somewhere probably pretty basic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Somewhere on the edge of Nebraska. Just needed a cheap place to sleep. Found this small, 1-story, 2-bedroom house on Airbnb. Good price.
Okay.
But they did notice it was a little weird. The listing said 2 bedrooms, but it only showed pictures of 1. Still, price was right, just needed a bed.
Yeah. Value's always appealing, isn't it? But sometimes those little details in the listing, the things that seem slightly off, they can be clues you overlook when you're just focused on the price or like how convenient it is.
So they ended up leaving Chicago later than they planned. Got there late. It was dark. The house was off this long, empty road down a little gravel path.
Okay, setting the scene a bit there. Dark, isolated.
Yeah, and right away, they noticed the outside looked a lot more worn down than the pictures suggested.
Ah, that classic listing versus reality moment.
Yeah.
It immediately puts you a little on edge, doesn't it? Especially arriving alone at night.
Totally. But here's where it got really weird. The front door, they looked for a key box, right? Nothing.
Okay.
And then they realized there was no lock on the front door at all.
Wait, what?
Just a plain doorknob like you'd find on an inside door, like a closet.
Hold on, no lock. On the main entrance to the house. That's not just weird, that's a massive security failure, like fundamental.
I know. They felt super uneasy, obviously.
But
late, they're tired, no other real options right then, so they went inside.
what was it like inside? Any better?
Surprisingly, yeah. The inside was actually quite nice. Looked well furnished. So they checked the bedrooms. First one, also no lock.
Still no locks.
Nope. But thankfully, the second bedroom did have a lock. So they figured, okay, this is the room, this is the safe space.
Well, that's something, I guess. Locking that door provides a little bit of security, but knowing the whole house is basically open, that would leave anyone feeling really exposed.
For sure. It makes you question the host, right? Like, what are the basic safety standards here?
Exactly.
And even in that room, the one with the lock, there was this one other detail that just felt off.
Oh, what was that?
Right there on the wall, kind of facing the bed, was this small, old doorway. The person described it as maybe like 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
2 feet wide. Really small.
Huh. A tiny door in the bedroom wall. That's unusual. The story mentioned a picture, I think.
Yeah, apparently there was one. And the more they looked at it, the more it unsettled them. Especially because they tried the knob. It was locked from the other side.
Ooh, okay. Locked from the other side. That adds a whole different layer of creepy.
Right. They assumed, okay, maybe it's just storage or something, cleaning supplies, who knows. But the idea of this little locked, inaccessible space right there in the room, it just gave them the creeps.
Yeah, that taps into something primal, doesn't it? A small, hidden space, locked from somewhere you can't see or access. It feels inherently mysterious, like it could be hiding something. And in a house that already feels insecure. Yeah, that amplifies everything.
So they tried to shake it off, unpacked just the essentials, got ready for bed. Middle of the night, though, they wake up.
Oh, no.
They hear this noise, a soft tapping.
Yeah.
Coming from the edge of the bed.
Right by the bed.
Yeah. Very subtle, they said, but the house was dead silent. So it was the only sound.
In the dark, silence makes every little sound seem huge, and something right next to you. That's incredibly unnerving.
Totally. So they grab their phone, turn on the flashlight,
Yeah.
shine it towards the edge of the bed where the sound was coming from.
Extra.
The tapping stopped. Instant.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The person telling the story said, look, I don't scare easily, but that moment, the tapping stopping right when the light hit, combined with that weird little door, that genuinely scared them.
I bet. The tapping stopping like that, it makes it feel less like a random house noise and more like something reacted, something aware. That's terrifying.
So yeah, they jumped out of bed, flipped on all the lights, grabbed their stuff, didn't even pack properly, just grabbed everything and bolted out of the house into the dark.
Didn't even hesitate. Good call.
And as they were backing the car out of that gravel path, getting away, they said they swore they saw a figure, like a man, lying on the ground behind the house.
Whoa. Whether it was real or just fear playing tricks, it just shows how completely unsafe they felt. Every shadow becomes a threat at that point.
Right. So they drove for maybe 30 minutes just getting away. Pulled over, texted the owner, said something like, hey, I think there might be someone in your house. You should call the police.
Okay, good. Alerted the owner.
Yeah, then they just kept driving for another couple of hours. Finally found a town, ended up sleeping in their car in a grocery store parking lot.
Oh, man. What a night.
But here's the kicker, the part that really stuck with them. They checked the message later, saw the owner had read it just a few minutes after they sent it.
Did they reply? Call the police?
Never responded.
At all.
Wow. Just read it and ignored it. A guest flees your property in the middle of the night, terrified, reports a possible intruder.
Right.
And you just don't reply.
Nope.
That's appalling, honestly. It's such a massive failure of responsibility. It makes you wonder, did they know something or just not care? That silence is almost as unsettling as the tapping.
It really is. This whole story just hammers home how vital basic security is, and how an unresponsive host can make a bad situation feel infinitely worse.
Yeah.
So isolating.
Definitely. Really makes you think about that fundamental trust you place in a rental.
Okay, so that was about issues inside the house. But sometimes the problems, they come from right outside the door. Ah, yes. Which brings us neatly to the next story. This one involves a neighbor, right?
Exactly. This second account is from a couple. They were visiting parents in Michigan, but decided to get an Airbnb condo nearby instead of staying with family.
Yeah, that's pretty common. Wanting your own space, but still being close. Makes sense.
So they found this place, looked cute, modern one-bedroom condo about 15 minutes from the parents, recently redone, so, not super cheap, but it looked nice.
Okay, reviews good.
Mostly. Hosts seemed nice, good ratings overall. But they did see a few negative comments mentioning strange experiences with the neighbor.
There it is. Those vague but potentially crucial negative reviews. How did the host handle those comments? Did they explain?
They did. They kind of downplayed it, said the neighbor was just, quote, nosy, and that sometimes she got a bit defensive when new people tried to enter the building. But hey, the host would let her know they were coming. It'd be fine.
That feels like an explanation designed to smooth things over rather than really address a potential issue, doesn't it? Putting it all on the neighbor being nosy.
Yeah, pretty much. So they arrive, check-in goes fine, met the host, got keys, codes, all that, unpacked, went out to dinner with the parents.
Standard arrival day stuff.
Right. They get back to the condo around 10 p.m. Now, the building had 4 apartments, 2 down, 2 up. Theirs was top left. As they pulled into the parking lot, they immediately saw a figure. Small figure, standing between the curtains, just staring out from the window of the top right apartment.
The neighbor's unit, right there, watching them arrive.
Yep. Instant visual contact. That feeling of being watched before you even get out of the car.
Yeah, that's unsettling right off the bat. It's not just glancing out. It sounds like focused staring.
And it continued. As they walked towards the main entry door for the building, the figure they could see was an older woman now, maybe 60s or 70s was still there, staring. The narrator described her face as having a crazy look. Mangled brown hair, wide open eyes, and this really angry frown.
Okay, that description. That elevates it beyond just curiosity. That sounds intense. Potentially hostile, even.
So they get inside the main building door, and there she is, standing at the top of the stairs, just watching them, still staring, silent.
Whoa! So she moved from her window to the shared internal space.
Yeah. They described her as small and kind of round, but with really thin arms and legs, just standing there watching them walk towards their apartment door.
That's a definite escalation. It's not passive observation anymore. That's a direct, unnerving presence right in their path.
They hurried into their apartment pretty shaken. The boyfriend was like, what the hell is that? The narrator was just relieved she hadn't actually tried to talk to them.
Yeah, silence can be creepier sometimes.
Nothing else happened that night until about 4 a.m.
Uh-oh.
Woken up by banging. Loud, nonstop banging on their front door. Lasted for maybe a minute or two, then silence.
Oh, man. Banging on your door in the dead of night, that's aggressive, that's intimidating. That turns unsettling into like an actual intrusion.
Totally. So the boyfriend goes to the peephole, looks out, seems confused. Then he opens the door just a crack and gasps.
What? What did he see?
On their welcome mat were dead rats. Gutted.
Yeah.
One still had its head.
Oh my God, no, that's horrifying. That's not just a disturbance, that's vandalism. It's a deeply disturbing, possibly threatening act. This isn't a nosy neighbor anymore.
Absolutely horrifying. They slammed the door shut, obviously couldn't sleep after that. They knew they had to contact the host first thing. Around 6:30 a.m., they hear the neighbor's door slam shut.
Okay.
The narrator looks out their kitchen window, which overlooked the parking lot,
Yeah.
and there she is again, standing there,
Yeah.
staring intently at their parked car.
Oh, so now the focus is on their property, not just them, but their car. That shows this fixation is persistent.
And then it just completely spiraled. The neighbor slowly turns her head, looks directly at the narrator in the window.
Oh, direct eye contact again.
Narrator jumps back from the window, startled, and immediately hears this horrible, blood-curdling shriek.
Oh no! What was happening?
They look back out. The neighbor was standing there, holding her head, screaming right at the driver's side window of their car, banging her head on the car, screaming things like, they never leave, when will they leave, why do they keep coming?
Wow. Just a complete public breakdown, focused on their car, triggered by their presence.
Right.
That confirms this person was, well, deeply distressed, and somehow temporary guests were a major trigger. This is way, way beyond nosiness.
For sure. So the narrator starts recording on their phone, boyfriend calls the police and the host. By the time the police got there, the neighbor was apparently just lying on the ground next to her own car.
Okay, and the host?
Showed up, apologized profusely, claimed nothing like this had ever happened before, immediately refunded their entire trip. They saw the police take the neighbor away in handcuffs after she apparently resisted.
Well, the full refund certainly acknowledges how bad it was during the stay, but it doesn't change the fact that the risk was there from the start, right?
Yeah.
Hinted at in those reviews the host downplayed.
Exactly.
This story really drives home that your rental experience isn't just about the property itself, it's the whole environment. The neighbors are part of that. Ignoring or minimizing those negative reviews, even if they seem minor or external, well, it can lead straight into situations like this. Deeply upsetting, potentially dangerous.
It really makes you pause before dismissing those one or two negative comments, doesn't it? Even if the host has an explanation.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift the location for our final story. This one takes us to Las Vegas. A group trip this time.
Vegas, okay. Classic group destination. Celebration, maybe.
Yep, college friends. End of sophomore year, they'd saved up some money, decided on Vegas, looked at hotels first, but then, Airbnb seemed like better value, more space for the four of them.
Makes sense for a group. Spread out a bit, maybe save some money compared to multiple hotel rooms.
So they picked the largest one they could find with the most rooms. Got there, took an Uber from the airport, house looked even bigger in person, everyone was excited. Standard vacation start, Unpacked, relaxed for a bit.
That's good so far.
Then around 8:30 that evening, the narrator and one friend, Alyssa, were the only ones still up. The other two had crashed. So they decided, let's go for a little walk, check out the neighborhood.
Okay.
And the narrator mentioned their Airbnb itself was pretty nice. And the houses right nearby on their street also looked nice. It felt like a decent area.
So initial impression of the immediate vicinity was positive. Felt safe enough for an evening stroll.
Yeah. But then, things took a weird turn. Literally. After walking past maybe 6 or 7 of these nice houses, their street took a sharp turn onto another road, and the houses there were completely different.
How so?
Like suddenly run down. The narrator called them shacks, basically. Broken windows, missing mailboxes, vacant signs. There was even an old sofa just sitting out in one yard. Just a really jarring, sudden contrast right around the corner.
Wow, that's a significant shift. It really highlights how neighborhood character isn't always consistent, right? You can be in a nice spot, but just a block or two away. It can be very different. And that proximity matters, affects your sense of place, maybe even safety.
Definitely. So they walk down this street a little bit, kind of taking in how run down it is.
Yeah.
And decide, okay, let's take the next turn and head back toward the Airbnb. But a couple minutes later, they see this small SUV coming towards them. Headlights off.
Headlights off after dark. That's immediately suspicious.
Right. It slows down.
Yeah.
And stops right next to them. Window rolls down. It's an older woman, maybe 50s, 60s.
Okay. What does she want?
She smiles, like this really big smile, and says, "You two are such a cute couple." But while she's saying it, she's making these really weird, jerky head and arm movements, just acting strangely off.
Huh. So the words are normal, but the delivery is unsettling.
Yeah. The narrator just quickly said thank you, trying to end the interaction, which worked. She drove off. They immediately turned and walked the other way, back towards their street.
That kind of interaction, even if nothing explicitly bad happens, it leaves you feeling uneasy, right? The jerky motions, the weird vibe, it triggers that internal alarm bell.
Totally. They were both pre-shaken, creeped out, just want to get back inside the Airbnb. But just as they reach their driveway,
oh no, don't tell me.
They see the same SUV turn onto their street, heading towards them again.
Oh, come on.
They're like halfway up the driveway when she stops,
right
in front of their house. This time, though, she doesn't say anything.
Just sits there.
Just looks at them. No expression, no emotion on her face, just stares as they scramble inside the house.
Okay, that is a massive escalation. The first encounter was weird, maybe random, but following them back to their specific house and just staring. That feels targeted. That feels like potential stalking. That's deeply concerning.
Yeah, way beyond creepy now. Inside, they heard the car drive off after a minute. They stayed up for like an hour, locking everything, checking windows. Eventually felt okay enough to go to bed.
I wouldn't have slept well.
Probably not. Next day, they told their other two friends what happened. Everyone was freaked out. They decided, okay, we need to tell the Airbnb owner. They did. Explained the whole thing and asked if they could maybe cancel their third night and just leave early.
What did the owner say?
He agreed immediately. No problem.
That's good. Suggests he took it seriously, or maybe he wasn't totally surprised by weirdness in the area, perhaps?
Could be. So to try and salvage the trip, they spent that entire next day away from the house, out in the city, doing Vegas stuff. Said they actually had a decent time.
Trying to put it behind them?
Yeah. But then, that night, they're in the Uber heading back to the house. And the narrator gets a text from the owner.
Okay, what was it?
It was a screenshot from his Ring doorbell camera footage. It showed the woman, that woman, standing outside the house.
No way. She came back.
Yep. And the owner's text just said, "Is this the lady from last night?"
Wow, that doorbell camera footage? That's huge. Objective proof. It confirms everything the guests experienced. That technology can be so valuable in these situations.
Totally. So they're in the Uber, freaking out, show the friends the picture, don't know what to do. They actually asked the Uber driver to drop them off at a nearby hotel parking lot instead of the house.
Smart move. Didn't want to walk into an unknown situation.
Right. While they waited there, the owner called the police. About 45 minutes later, the owner calls them back, says the house is clear, police checked it out, they can come back. But he mentioned the police never actually found the woman.
Oh, so the immediate threat at the house was gone, but she was still out there somewhere. That doesn't exactly bring peace of mind, does it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
The narrator said that actually made them feel worse. The lack of resolution, knowing she was still around.
Yeah, the uncertainty would be awful. Her motive, her intentions, all unknown.
Exactly. So they went back to the house, but only to immediately start packing. They were leaving first thing in the morning, no question.
Don't blame them.
Nothing else happened overnight or the next morning when they were leaving. But the narrator said, yeah, none of them slept well. They got to the airport as fast as they could. Looking back, they called it one of the strangest things that ever happened. Still thinks about it.
And you would, wouldn't you? That feeling of being targeted, watched, followed. Especially when you don't know why, it sticks with you.
And their big piece of advice from all this, always check out the area around your Airbnb before you book. Use Google Maps, Street View, whatever. They really felt that doorbell camera and their decision to leave early might have prevented something much worse.
That pre-booking location research is such a key takeaway. You can't predict everything, obviously, but understanding the immediate environment, seeing if there are those sharp contrasts like they found, it can give you important context. And yeah, the doorbell cam was clutch there, turned a scary story into documented evidence.
So yeah, looking back at these three stories, these really unsettling accounts,
yeah,
you definitely see some common threads, right? Highlighting these vulnerabilities guests can face.
Yeah, absolutely. Things like, just a basic lack of security inside the rental, like that first story with no locks.
Right.
Then there's dealing with problematic or even dangerous neighbors, like the rats and the screaming.
Yeah.
And then that unprovoked strange behavior escalating into what felt like stalking in the Vegas story. It also really shows the value of paying attention to all the reviews, even the negative ones hosts might try to explain away.
And the importance of considering the location, not just the house itself, but the whole environment around it.
Exactly. These stories hit hard because they disrupt that feeling of safety and privacy you expect, that you paid for when you rent a place.
Totally. It raises big questions about, like, how much can you really know beforehand about the place, the neighbors, the area, and what can you actually do if you get there and something feels wrong, or if these outside factors start impacting your stay?
Yeah, it exposes these gray areas. Where does the host's responsibility end, especially if the problem is a neighbor or someone off the street? What backup or support is really there when things go seriously sideways? And like we heard, maybe the biggest impact is just that lingering unease, the uncertainty. Sometimes you just don't get answers, you don't find out why, and that's unsettling in itself.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How much we rely on just trust. Trust when we walk into an unfamiliar house, trust in the host, the platform, the neighborhood just being normal. And how fast that trust can just shatter based on one missing lock, one creepy door, or the actions of someone you never, ever expected to interact with.
It's definitely a sobering thought about the hidden risks sometimes involved in these kinds of stays.
Indeed. Well, that wraps up our deep dive for today into some genuinely unnerving Airbnb experiences, all drawn from real submitted stories. Thanks so much for joining us as we talk through these accounts and the kind of unexpected challenges they bring up.
Hopefully, understanding these potential issues helps everyone listening be just a little more aware, maybe a bit more vigilant, when booking their next temporary home away from home.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive. Until then, stay curious. And hey, if you found this interesting, feel free to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, Horror Docs. We appreciate the support.
Thanks, everyone.